talking about and having a grown-up, non-partisan discussion about the topic of immigration. She's, by using that horrible, the worst bit was the invasion or invaders or whatever she used, right? Turn my stomach. She's made the discussion for people who want, like myself, who want to have a grown-up discussion about this topic even harder. Because for me, if I now say to somebody I don't know that well or I know a little bit, okay, so let's have a discussion. What are the short-term, long-term, medium-term things we can do?
Yes.
You know, we need immigration because the country's getting older, but also we've got to realise there's an impact on planning for a local and central government. So, you know, what's the... I don't want to use the word limit, but do you know what I mean? What's the plan? But
there's no desire to have that. There's no desire to have that conversation because she's just starting fires, isn't she?
Well, she's my way I thought is she's just dropped a big depth charge on the conversation. Because if you say that now, you're going to get people on the massive end of the spectrum away from her who will say that's racist, that's fascist, putting numbers on it. And it isn't, but that's the start of a discussion. But we can't put sort of short-term, medium and long-term plans in place to stop kids living in a place like Manston. You know, what
she said yesterday was fascistic. But talking about that instead of talking about how to solve the actual problem, while claiming that people are cross with her because she's going to do such a brilliant job of solving the problem, it's like a Rubik's Cube, isn't it? I agree with you that she doesn't come across as being particularly intelligent, but this is a malevolent masterstroke because it lets her off the hook. Do you know what she was supposed to be talking about when she went off on this one, Robert? She was supposed to be talking about the firebomb attack. She was supposed to be giving two statements to the House, essentially. One about her own breaches of national security, her contempt for the ministerial code, and her probable lies about the circumstances in which she lost her job 3 weeks ago. And then she was supposed to be making a statement about the firebomb attack on the processing centre in Dover. And she's ended up dominating the front pages with fascistic language about an invasion of refugees. So, and that, I mean, she's not kicked a bottle as a football manager might have done. She's kicked tens of thousands of completely innocent people, and she's kicked them right where it hurts. And I'm afraid, although I agree with everything you say, it's worked. It has worked.
Oh, it's so frustrating for me because I want people in my local community, Dover, and extending from that to have a grown-up conversation, not the knuckle draggers on the right, not the, if you want to talk about it, you are a fascist on the other side of the spectrum. Yeah. Let's have a non-partisan, in the middle of the road conversation about it, but she's completely effed that up. I nearly used the F word, but there you go.
It's a different F word. You used the other one already. What is the sort of, I mean, what is the impact on the people of Dover of this on a day-to-day basis? I hear Natalie Elphick wanging on quite a lot, but I'm never quite sure where she's coming from. But just as a resident of Dover who commutes to Maidstone and back every day, how does it impact upon your existence and the existence of your family and friends?
Well, where we've got the inland border facility that I have to go past on the way to work, it's adding 25, 30 minutes to what used to be about an hour just under journey.
But that's lorries. That's lorries trying to get in, isn't it? Or get out. That's not asylum seekers.
That's not, but I kind of think it's all linked. You know, what's next? Do we have these border check things inland rather than, you know, I can see it all getting joined up.
But in terms of the small boats, how does the small boats impact upon you? If at all.
Well, I was saying to your research before, at the moment, negligibly, because where I live about a good 45-minute walk away from where that boat landed,
right,
up a very steep hill. So it's not concerning me. But
that's good advice, life advice. That you're going to buy a house, buy a house on the top of a very steep hill. There's no downside to, well, I suppose, except having to walk up it.
On the way home. But I don't want to offend a lot of people that are going over. But the area, I was saying to a researcher, that area near Shakespeare Cliff where that boat wasn't intercepted by RNLI, etc. That is, it's in the bottom 5% or top 5%, whatever you look at it, deprived areas out of the 4,000 wards in the UK.
Gosh.
So I don't want to be rude about them, but there's a football team that's named after, in fact, 400 years ago, some people hung a monkey because they thought it was somebody from, that could be the people from that area. So I don't want to be rude because there's a lot of fear going around.
You've come as close to being rude as you're prepared to come. I think I let people read between the lines, but it wasn't quite what I was asking. But then again, it was
really quickly. Then sorry, the local council, which really didn't help. So well done, Dover District Council.
Yeah.
The day after that incident happened near Shakespeare Cliff with the young man trying to get in that lady's house, sent a letter out to the residents saying, shut your doors and windows. I mean, if that doesn't stoke fear, nothing else will.
That's a very good
point. Well done, Dover District Council, you're legends.
Well done, Robert. That's quite the debut. I look forward to your next call to the programme from the eye of the supposed storm as well, of course, down in Kent. 11:46 is the time. 11:51 is the time. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. A few more calls on this, and then I think we'll allow ourselves a bit of light relief by trying to imagine the thought processes of Matty Hancock, who has decided to go into the jungle as a contestant on this year's I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, a decision that has already cost him the Conservative whip. Do you know, this morning it was reported he was trying to become chair of the Treasury Select Committee, one of the most important positions a backbench MP can hold. How the mighty have fallen. Two quotes for you, just to whet your appetites for that conversation, coming up after 12. The first is from Andy Drummond, who is the deputy chair of the West Suffolk Conservative Association. That's Matt Hancock's constituency. I wonder what the deputy chair thinks about their MP's decision to go into the jungle. Here is Andy Drummond. He says, I'm looking for, and I'm going to use it's not a rude word, it's just a biological term for a man's appendage. So if you don't want anyone in the car to hear it, just be aware of that. Although I can't imagine that there's a problem, you just never know. Here's a quote from Andy Drummond, Deputy Chairman, Political of West Suffolk Conservative Association. He said a few moments ago, I'm looking forward to him eating a kangaroo's penis. Quote me. You can quote me on that. So quite cross, I would suggest, by the sounds of it. Shadow Health Minister Andrew Gwynn, meanwhile, just said, to be fair to Matt Hancock, I'd sooner eat wallaby anus than be a Tory MP too. Thomas is in Liverpool. Thomas, where were we?
We were talking about Suella Braverman, weren't we?
We were. What do you want to say?
Well, so I moved to the UK when I was 18 to attend university, and I just want to apologise in advance if there's any noise. I was walking through town and I was listening to this conversation, and I just had to weigh in because it's basically describing my situation.
Go on.
So I'm 23 now, and I've been here 5 years.
Yeah.
And my application process to come to the UK was just ridiculously easy. I think it altogether took about 5 days.
Gosh.
I came to university, and then I stuck around after. I got a second visa, which took me about 10 days to get.
Okay.
Which it's not lost on me that I'm from a wealthy Commonwealth country.
Yeah.
Other people from other Commonwealth countries aren't afforded the same visa route that I was.
Oh.
But also, it's not lost on me that I'm mixed ethnicity, and I'm very, very white passing.
Okay.
And even since staying, I've made jokes to people, I stayed to take all the jobs and this and that. And I've been told before to my face, oh no, well you're not one of those immigrants.
There it is. You see, it's so weird.
And so they give up the game when they say things like that.
Yeah. You just see it as being undeniably colour-based prejudice.
Well, I'm an acceptable form of an immigrant to them.
Like Clara, I don't know if you heard
I did, yeah.
Clara earlier, over from Hungary in 1956, like Dominic Raab's parents.
And what really gets me about it is the fact that my grandfather was a Holocaust survivor.
Oh boy.
And my grandmother was the daughter of people who fled Syria and Lebanon. So in another life, a lot of this would be affecting me, and it's even worse because I'm gay. So if I was born in Syria or Lebanon, there's a very strong chance that had I survived to 23 years old, I would have done anything that I could to get somewhere as safe as the UK and would not have had a 4 or 7 or 10 day application process.
How live is this issue in Canada? If just purely out of curiosity, it's not relevant to the conversation we're having, but I'm always keen to learn other perspectives.
Yeah. I've not lived there for about 5 years now, so my sort of knowledge of what's currently going on is a bit more limited. But there is, I've had conversations, at dinners with people who are saying, oh, the country's full up, and these are people who are children of immigrants, and I'm sort of sat there going, what on earth are you talking about? We're at this dinner because people were let into this country?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that happens here, and And I think what's really interesting in the darkest sense, obviously, about Suella Braverman is the fact that I think that her reasoning for saying the things she's saying is a little bit more simple than we're giving her credit for.
Go on.
I mean, I think most of her is more simple than we're giving her credit for, but I think what she's saying is because of the fact that her government has presided over 12 years of disaster.
Yeah.
And when you have most of the public service falling apart, you need to find a reason to explain to the people who are your last chance at staying in power why they are in such miserable conditions. And we've seen it throughout history. We've seen it over and over and over again. And the easiest person to choose is the other. And so
it's
they
as old
choose
as the
whichever
hills.
version of the other that they can lock their eyes on. And they explain it as all of your misery, all of your suffering is their fault.
Because they are invaders.
Use the whole NHS. Exactly.
They wish you ill. They wish you harm. They are like an army or a disease. And
we saw it with Donald Trump calling immigrants vermin.
Yeah.
And we've seen it throughout history. It's very, very much a trope that is used all the time by people who are, populist or fascist.
And the world divides into people who see it clearly and can't believe that others fall for it, and people who fall for it. And some of them are falling for it not through dint of lack of intelligence or the quality of the con. They're lapping it up because they love it.
No, well, completely. But also, I think that there's a dishonesty about the way that this is covered. Now, I studied some law, but I'm not a lawyer by any stretch.
Sure.
But I do have some knowledge of what's in the Geneva Conventions. As far as I'm aware, there is no way to be an illegal asylum seeker. I don't think that you can go somewhere trying to claim asylum and be told that you're an illegal migrant. I don't think that's how it works.
You can be in a country illegally after your asylum claim has been rejected and you've absconded or you've not...
Like sort of overstayed your visa or whatever we're calling it.
Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. There is no such thing as that. You could be a doomed asylum seeker, I suppose. Yeah. So someone whose application is so clearly going to fail that we need a new adjective to describe it, but that adjective will never be illegal.
Well, no, and the other thing that's really apparent to me is the fact that, one of the only things that was used as a metric to check whether I was a good immigrant was whether I had £2,000 something in my account.
Right.
So it really, the system, and I came about 3,000 Home Secretaries ago.
So that was last Thursday. Wasn't it?
I mean, yeah.
No, but the point you make about money, of course, if there were safe routes, then you could actually have a financial threshold in place, much higher than the one you mentioned, and instead that money is going into the pockets of criminal gangs and people traffickers, isn't it?
Well, so exactly. And,
all roads lead
to get here, I had to pay an NHS surcharge. I had to pay to use the NHS. So the notion of people coming in here and using the NHS, it is created. They don't want there to be legal immigration routes, because then who would they blame all of the other squalor on?
I think you make several brilliant points, but the two that I shall take away and possibly knit together is the colour-based observation and the final one about this actually being desirable for a certain type of politician, for a certain type of populist. So we don't want to fix the system, because if we did fix the system, then Syrians and Afghans would be treated in exactly the same way that Ukrainians were at the beginning of this year. It's pretty obvious, right? It could work. You wanted a system that worked, then you would treat Syrians like Canadians, even if they are white passing was the phrase that Thomas used. There's no desire, and that's why a couple of people have mentioned Theresa May and the echoes of the hostile environment. It was our Albanian caller, wasn't it? Because that was it. The hostile environment was never really designed to make Canadians feel unwelcome any more than it would have been designed to make Ukrainians feel unwelcome today. It was designed and clearly did direct suspicion at West Indian people, at people from the Caribbean, more than any other section of society. Now, why would that be? Yeah, that was an important 2 hours, and I'm glad we didn't go off at the deep end. It's going to be awful, isn't it? It's going to be absolutely awful. So let me get the list. I have some knowledge of some of the people in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. If you're just tuning in, we've done 2 hours on Suella Braverman and we're having a holiday. All right, we're taking an hour off. It's still politics, technically. I reckon I could defend that in a court of law. I think you'll find, my lud, that we were discussing the career choices of the former Secretary of State for Health, Matthew Hancock MP. member for West Suffolk or somewhere like that. Anyway, he's going in a bit late. So you start off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You start off with 10 celebrities going into the I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here jungle. Shall I give someone a ring, actually, who's been on it? Shall we do that? Do you want to? I'll do it during the break. I'll get you my nuts. If you're listening, you know who you are. Just drop me a text and tell me if you want to come on and give advice for Matt Hancock on how to get through the programme. I can't get hold of Moyles, obviously, which is annoying, because normally if someone's doing a TV show, you could get hold of them, just doing like a quiz show or something like that. You could have a chat with them, what are the other contestants like? But obviously they all hand in their phones. They're all now in the jungle. Boy George is doing it. Now, that's a booking. He's 10 to 1 to win it at the moment, although the hot favourite is someone called Owen Warner, who I presume is either... Well, I'd know him if he was a fool. Oh, he's in Hollyoaks. Plays Romeo Nightingale. What a great name. Romeo Nightingale. God, if my parents had called me Romeo Nightingale, my life would have unfolded so differently. With boring old James O'Brien, James O'Brexit. Romeo Nightingale in the house. You'd just take different career paths, wouldn't you? You'd make different choices. You'd go through different doors in life. That's not his real name, by the way. His real name's Owen Warner. But anyway, he's currently the favourite, although God knows how they calculate this. My man Moyles, Team Moyles, very much on this programme. Hashtag Team Moyles. He's at 7 to 1. Boy George at 10s. He says, I'm bored of being iconic in the corner. If you want to compete in the world, then being part of telly is part of that. This is the biggest show on TV. And glancing at the list of everybody else on it, I suspect he's also got the biggest check. This is the biggest show in TV, and that is why I'm doing it. And now I've made the decision, I don't want to focus too much on what the experience might be like, but my intention is it is going to be amazing. So, he will be, I imagine, pretty waspish, no, Boy George? I mean, there's going to be some... There's going to be some strong words, I imagine. There's going to be some badinage. It's a great word, badinage. There's going to be some badinage on the program. Moyles will give as good as he gets. Sharp as a tack, old Moyles. And that's the limit of the ones that I have any personal knowledge of, I've got to be honest with you. Mike Tyndall, the rugby player. I have no personal knowledge of him, but I very much know the type. He'll be pretty solid. He'll be very much a kind of team player. He'll emerge as a bit of a... Why am I doing this? I'm turning into Steve Allen. I'm really interested in what the hell Matt Hancock is playing at, and now I'm giving you a sort of This Morning style guide to what's likely to unfold on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So Tyndall will be very much a leader. He'll also be quite good at whipping up morale among the... I mean, he's a World Cup winning rugby player. It'd be brilliant at team psychology and getting people going. And also, he's always come across as a pretty compassionate guy, except for that time he was rude about our boy Prince Harry. But I imagine that was Bants. He'll be very good at spotting people who are a bit down and trying to G them up. It may not be what they need, being G'd up. They may need to actually sit with their pain and work their way through whatever has got them sad or depressed. But Tyndall, who's probably known as Tinders to his mate, I don't know, Tyndall will be there. Come on, G'ing them up. Jill Scott will be, I imagine, epic, the football player who was one of the Lionesses that won the Euros in the summer. She's fierce. I don't know how much you were following women's football before they won the Euros, but Jill Scott, you would not mess with Jill Scott for love or money. And then a few other people as well. Charlene White as well. We love Charlene White. Crikey. This is incredible. It's like my contacts book. Charlene White will be also. Anyway, it's a great lineup. And it was looking good anyway. We don't talk about this stuff much at work, particularly in the context of the current political climate. But this morning, the producer and I said, it looks all right, isn't it? You were getting excited, weren't you? Particularly Boy George. And then that Sean Walsh guy who cheated on his girlfriend with a dancer when he was on Strictly Come Dancing. He's going to come and make a late appearance. I think that had already been reported. And then at about 11 o'clock this morning, breaking news at this time, 11 o'clock this morning, Matt Hancock is going into the I'm a Celebrity jungle. Now, he has already got his sort of friends, in quotes. I don't mean that rudely. I'm sure he's got friends. We know he does, don't we? He gave a massive contract to one of them. That's a joke, by the way. It's not technically what happened. But he's got allies already briefing the media. One political ally says, are you ready for this? It's an incredible opportunity for him to engage with 12 million Britons who tune in every single night. They say that Hancock believes politicians must, quotes, embrace popular culture, end quotes. I think the last politician to go on was Nadine Dorries, wasn't it? I'm not entirely sure that her foray into the jungle, lucrative though it may have been, enhanced her political standing much. And I grant you that Boris Johnson subsequently made her a Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, but that's probably apocryphal. Didn't Caligula make his horse a senator? I don't know that necessarily speaks of any particular talent or deserving. The key line from a political ally of Matt Hancock speaking to the political editor of The Times, Stephen Swinford, is this. Matt's of the view that we must embrace popular culture rather than looking down on reality TV. We should see it for what it is, a powerful tool to get our message heard by younger generations. That's the rationale of Matt Hancock. It might be twaddle. He might just be doing it for the money. He probably needs the money, doesn't he? I'd have thought. I don't know. What's he up to? Do you need a more sophisticated treatment than that? Do we need to go in deeper? Do you need a 20-minute monologue on Matt Hancock's decision to do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here? What is he up to? 034 560 60973. I'll tell you what I think. What I really, really think. I think... And there's always, when you say things like the thing I'm about to say, there is always the danger that when you point a finger at somebody, there are three fingers pointing back at you. Yeah? It's like a form of projection. I learned that in therapy. Someone points a finger at you, there's three fingers pointing back at them. So the things I am about to accuse Matt Hancock of, I am probably not exactly innocent of myself. I think I am, but that's kind of the point. I suspect Matt Hancock's self-image, the way he thinks of himself and the way he thinks other people see him, is approximately 47,000 light years away from how we actually see Matt Hancock. I can't come up with a better explanation. Luckily, I don't have to, because I'm going to invite you to fill in the gaps in a moment. In fact, I'll invite you to do it now. The number is 03456060973. But I think Matt Hancock believes that he will win over the hearts and minds of the population, because he's lived in this Tory bubble now for so long that he thinks that is reality. There aren't many people who are going to get a dose of reality by going on reality TV. It's a bit of a misnomer. There is not much resemblance to reality for 10 people living in a makeshift camp in the middle of an Australian jungle, being challenged to jump off high platforms and eat various bugs and genitalia of exotic animals. But Matt Hancock thinks that because he managed to rise in David Cameron's cabinet or serve in Theresa May's cabinet, the skills that he needed to thrive and succeed, ending up as Secretary of State for Health, no less. God, he did my holiday cover as well, didn't he? So one of my holiday covers is now Chancellor of the Exchequer, and the other is going into the jungle to eat kangaroo testicles. There's a lesson there somewhere. There's a moral. God knows what it is. But I cry, people would be queuing up to do next year's, won't they? So he is persuaded that because he has succeeded in politics, so he will succeed in the jungle. And he thinks that because he can charm constituency associations or negotiate his way through a tricky interview with an interviewer, he honestly thinks, and also, you know, he that lady fell for him, didn't he? The woman he was having an affair with. He thinks he's a bit of a dude, I think, Matt Hancock. When you look at him, he thinks he's cheeky Matt. He thinks he's cheeky Matty Hancock, you know, and just a little bit. He probably thinks he'll get a game show out of it. He'll do a quick turn in the jungle, and the next thing you know, he just needs to find a sidekick. He'll be the new Anton Deck. Who would be his sidekick? I dread to think, frankly. Cummings? Matt and Dom? Dick and Dom. That's not fair. 13 minutes after 12 is the time. So I think he honestly believes, I think he honestly sees it as a career move, and that he will somehow woo the great British public with his charm and charisma. I don't know if we're going to get many calls from people who know Matt Hancock, but it'd be interesting to know whether they think he's going to woo the British public with his charm and charisma. So that's question number one. What's he up to? What do you reckon? What's Matt Hancock's thinking? If you had a direct line into what passes for Matt Hancock's brain, what do you think you would find there this afternoon? 034 560 60973. And then there's a serious question, which is, does this actually matter? Because I'm a great one for guarding against the knee jerk. I don't know whether you've picked up on this in recent years, but even this morning, where choosing our words carefully, really reluctant to use the F word to talk about Suella Braverman, even though all the evidence was really in support of that direction. It's outrageous. He's going into the jungle. What about his constituents? You go there because it's a popular and obvious response. But in the really great scheme of things, does it really matter? I mean, is it possible to actually put a positive spin on this rather than simply to take the mickey and to say, actually, it will introduce a politician to a whole new generation of people. Say what you like about Matt Hancock. He's nowhere near as awful as Nadine Dorries. So possibly, I'm reaching, I grant you, but it's not impossible, is it? It's not beyond the realms of all possibility that seeing someone that they saw very much front and centre. I don't know why I'm saying they. That's quite snobby, isn't it? We watched the Jungle one. I'll be watching it this year more than ever because I know someone in it, as I said. But I guess I'm saying they for people who aren't dealing with politics and politicians all the time, whereas we are. So people watching this, will it possibly serve some benefit? Will it do some good? 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. Number one, what do you reckon he's up to, little Matty Hancock? Is he bidding for sort of, I don't know, maybe Stephen Mulhern should be worried. Big fan of Stephen Mulhern. He's getting a lot of work at the moment. Maybe little Matty Hancock's going to come up on the outside lane and bag a couple of quiz shows. I think you're all right, Stephen. And if you're not, you've always got the magic to fall back on. If Matt Hancock nicks all your light entertainment work after a triumphant emergence from the jungle, I reckon you'll be all right. But what else? I mean, what is he up to? It's a mad one, this, actually. The more I think about it, the more you wonder what on earth is going on in his mind. I know what I'll do. How can there be no one in his circle? What's that, Matt? I'm going to do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. You come again? I'm going to do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And there's no one in his circle that would just go, mate, shut up. That's incredible, right? Not long ago, you were quite a serious frontline politician. I grant you, it didn't go well, what with getting caught snogging your mistress in the office and talking absolute balderdash about what you'd done at the outset of that. But, do you reckon it's all because Rishi Sunak snubbed him the other day? Did you see that footage? Sunak jumps out of the car after he's got the nod to be Prime Minister. He starts hugging people, shaking hands. Look great. He was like, hey, woohoo. And then Hancock's there with his little grin and he sort of moves his way. He gets his way to the front of the crowd, getting ready for, shall I go in for the hug? Shall I go in for the handshake? Is it going to be a hug? Is it going to be a handshake? Is it going to be a handshake? Is it going to be a hug, handshake, hug? Oh my God, he's just walked past me and blanked me completely. If you haven't watched that footage, look it up. It was actually hilarious. Maybe that was the moment, because the producers would have been on the phone for a while, I imagine. They ring around furiously, speak to a couple of hundred people before they whittle it down to the final 10. Some tell them where to go, some express an interest, some haggle over, well, they all haggle over money. So Hancock there, when he was snubbed by Rishi Sunak, he realised he wasn't going to be able to do a Michael Gove. There's no way back for the Hancock, as he almost certainly calls himself in private. There's no way back for the Hancock. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ring those jolly old TV producers back, and I am going to be the king of the jungle. 21 minutes after 12, Matt Hancock is going on to I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and we're talking about it. What a time to be alive. David's in Newcastle. David, what do you reckon?
Hi, Johnny. I wanted to weigh in and say that I think it's actually it could be a really, really dangerous and insidious form of communication manipulation. I think it could be quite a. You might be
overthinking it slightly, or unless you've pot kettle. Unless those long words are a bit inappropriate. Insidious.
I think so. I think that it's a way of him trying to revamp his career, which he crashed when he had that affair during COVID and broke all those rules that made us look like mugs.
What career though? He's not going to resurrect his political career by going on. Is he? I don't. Maybe he is. I
think that he might. That might have been his intention. Obviously now the whip's been withdrawn. But what I want to say is that I think that he's got the potential as a slightly weird and goofy man to win people's approval that he can be quite off the cuff and quite quirky and strange. And I think in a parallel in the sense that people got behind Boris, that he was kind of like this bumbling buffoon.
I think that might be part of his calculation. I'm surprised to hear you suggesting that it might be a sound calculation.
No, I don't think that. Well, obviously it's not worked, has it? Because
not yet, but you never know. But no, he obviously thinks more good than bad will come of it. Do you?
I don't know. Well, it depends if he will go ahead with it. I don't know. I think that maybe that could have been a thought, that he could have won over people's opinions by.
No, I don't know. I don't doubt that. I think that's the statement of the bleeding obvious territory. He obviously thinks he's going to come out of it well. I want to know whether you do, knowing what you know about Matt Hancock.
I mean, I think that it potentially could. I think maybe you were put off by the fact that I used the word comms, communications, and called it insidious. But I think we need to call it out actually for what it is, because even with he's obviously got one of his political allies. I don't know who it was to brief the Times. These people are so they're so well organized, and they know exactly what they're doing. I mean, you just have to look at what's happened with Suella Braverman being reinstated after a week. Like, it literally is like the thick of it.
Shameless, like the shamelessness of it. The idea that there's nothing you can do that won't admit a comeback, even in some cases after 6 days. So it's a rebranding then? A rebranding and a resurrection? Attempted.
I think that was his idea. I don't know whether it would work. I fear that it would work because of people's. I fear people's ability to be swayed by, as we've seen with Boris, be swayed by these people that appear like idiots when they're actually
quite calculating.
Orchestrated.
No, I hear you.
Communicators. I think he's been part of governments that have inflicted misery upon people, and we need to see these people for what they are. Because I think he became a minister with it in 2015.
Yeah. Cameron must be one of the second longest serving after Truss, actually.
But I think these people need to be called out for what they are, because they've made people's lives a misery, and they're trying to treat public offices.
Well, I'd be interested to see what other people do. It could get quite heated in the jungle. Charlene White certainly would not have any hesitation about pointing out some home truths about his political performance. Ditto Moyles, actually, although I think Moyles will surprise people by being really lovely. I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. Will Matt Hancock do similar? He'll surprise people by being really lovely. He'll be trying so hard to be everyman, to be blokey and like, hey, I'm just a normal guy. I'm just normal Matty Hancock. That's what he'll be trying so hard to do. Maybe he'll pull it off. Maybe he won't. He's got a book coming out as well. I thought this was a joke, I have to be honest with you. It's due to be published at the beginning of December, which would be roughly the time he comes out of the jungle. It's 6 weeks, isn't it? Is it 6 weeks or 5 weeks? How long? Anyway, so he's written a book called The Pandemic Diaries. He's forced to resign, of course, for breaking his own COVID rules, or rather he did resign for breaking his own COVID rules. No, is that true? I'm just looking that the reports of it seem to be coming from Suffolk News, which is a parody site. Is it a parody site? I don't know if it is. No, it's not. No, it looks real. I think it's... Well, anyway, Matt Hancock, eh? Becky's in Lund in Sweden. Is this big news in Sweden, Becky?
Matt Hancock?
Yeah, that was close.
It's massive news in my corner of Sweden, aka my bedroom. But
that'll do. What do you make of it all?
I think the whole thing raises a really interesting and quite complicated question of the difference between politicians and celebrity.
Yes.
And political celebrity. I mean, if we think about the past however many years, it feels like a lifetime. But Boris Johnson very much became a celebrity first and a politician second when he was Mayor of London, it felt, certainly, in terms of his media depiction.
Yes.
And people are always going, like, when celebrities go on to I'm a celeb, this might be of quite a cynical view, perhaps. Celebrities' main job is to sell something, right?
True. Yes, often themselves. And so the same with politicians, actually, not to defend politicians, but that phrase that politics is showbiz for ugly people. You've heard that before. They have a lot in common. They have quite a lot in common.
This is true, but I think at the minute, he's a backbench MP.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, his job as a politician is to go into the House of Commons, represent his constituents in the chamber, or perhaps on a committee. He's obviously trying to angle himself onto the Treasury Select Committee.
Yeah, he's obviously given up on that. Probably read the room. So now he's trying to find a new room, a massive room, an enormous room. Listen, I'm glad you've made these points, because now I can tease you a bit. Is it that big a deal? I can see the argument that his constituents are going to be unrepresented in the House of Commons for a couple of weeks. There'll be recess involved here. I forget precisely the deets. So there'll be some period where his constituents are unrepresented in the House of Commons. But what he would have done do you see what I mean? The argument that it'll be good for politics, for people who would never normally engage with politics, to have a politician on their telly every night for a month. You can see some positives there? I kind of can, but perhaps something comes from the one-sidedness of him being the only politician on the show presently. Yeah, that's true.
I suppose perhaps when I remember Kezia Dugdale tried to do I'm a Celeb, and they threatened to suspend her from the Scottish Labour Party for doing so.
I didn't know that.
And I'd have this. Yeah, that was several years ago, actually. Shout out to my friend Rachel for telling me that earlier.
Shout out. What do you think this is? Beacon Radio? Go on.
Hey, I'm sorry, James. I'm young. But I think certainly something comes from perhaps the one-sidedness. As you said...
No, she did it. You're misinforming me. She did I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here.
Did she do it?
Yes. Shout out to Rachel for Rachel for making you make a fool of yourself on national radio, more like.
Well, I'm sure I'll survive. I'll survive. Yeah,
I'll survive there we go. Put your teeth back in and try again. She did it. She risked her entire political career to do it.
And that's the thing with Hancock.
Yes.
He's not. I don't think this is not him aiming to get some kind of new political power, I don't think. As you said, he's got to...
But why is he doing it then? He's trying to become the new Stephen Mulhern. And frankly, we're pretty much delighted with the old one. Thank you, Becky. You've taken me right up to the very latest news headlines with Amelia Cox. It is 12:34. You are listening to James O'Brien on LBC, where we are discussing the bizarre decision of Matt Hancock to go into the jungle. And hard to see it going well, I think, but who knows? So what we're just doing really is wondering what he's up to. 0345 606 0973. I liked Becky's point about the conflation or the blurring of celebrity and politics. It's very hard to believe that many of the household name politicians on the Conservative side of the House went into politics because of their concern for other people. I was at school with a lad, and a teacher of mine used to tell me this story, and I never understood why the teacher loved it so much. It was one of the lads who was much older than me, 4 or 5 years older than me. He was very good at debating. So the debating teacher would say, "Oh, you could be like him one day," and I'd be like, "Oh, wow, that'd be amazing." And a few years when he was graduating from university, because I was still at school, because I was 5 years behind him, and someone said, "Will he go into politics, do you think, sir?" And the teacher said, "No, he thinks politics is beneath him." I never understood why that was a sort of curious combination of shocking and funny. And in many ways, I still don't. But I don't look at people like Matt Hancock and imagine them in the sixth form thinking, I really want to make this country a fairer, better place. I certainly don't look at people like Boris Johnson and imagine them sitting there, or Suella Braverman go, I really want to make this country a fairer, better place. I think politics speaks to an idea of status. It's like it's self-importance. It speaks to an idea of how important you think you are. Right? Quite often, people who haven't quite cut the mustard in this game go into politics. It's not like a Johnson or a Gove who were on top of the game when they decided to go into politics, but someone like an Esther McVeigh, perhaps. Someone who hasn't quite gone as far as they had expected or hoped to go in the work. So then they just look around for something else that might feed their ego, is the only way I can put it. Some people maybe start off feeding the ego. They've not had a crack at journalism or had a crack at TV presenting or had a crack at something else and it hasn't gone quite well. So what can I do to be famous? Is a question. So in fact, in almost in contrast to what Becky said, It's quite natural for Nadine Dorries, desperate to be famous. Not much copper anything, desperate to be famous. Natural she'd go on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. Political career wasn't going anywhere, particularly at the time. Who knew that the skip fire of Boris Johnson would see her even achieve cabinet level status? I want to be better known. Somehow people think that by being well known on the outside, they will feel better about themselves on the inside. It's quite a bit deep, that maybe. But I think the idea that fame can make you happy is only half stupid. The half of it that's not stupid is the idea of having such a fragile but overdeveloped ego that you need, what can I do? I'm not good looking enough to be I can't sing. I can't play football. I've had a go at being James O'Brien, but that didn't work out very well because they only went and filmed me telling Keith to cut that caller off who was making me look a bit. So what can I do? What can I do? Politics hasn't worked. I think I've come to the end of the road politically. What can I do? I still want to be famous. I want to be Matt Hancock on the telly. What can I do? Oh, I know. I'll go. I don't know. That's just my thinking. Kenny's on the Wirral. Kenny, what do you reckon?
Hello, James.
Hello,
as I said to the girl, I think he's made an absolute total, a magnificent failure he's going to be.
Yes.
And I personally don't think he's watched the show, otherwise he would not have went on it in a million years.
Well, he might watch Nadine Dorries on it, no?
Yeah, but I personally watched it or listened to it, for years.
Yes.
And, and I personally have never voted in my life. I will be voting every episode to be getting him into a pit or to eat whatever he's got to eat.
To get to him doing unpleasant things.
And I don't, my opinion is, I don't think I'm the only one. I think the population will watch that. Every person, I reckon, in this population knows at least one person that's died of COVID. And I say that, I don't say that lightly. Like, I know 3, and I know people that know at least 1.
Yeah.
So I don't think people will forget that and his position in that escapade that went on during the COVID crisis.
And he seems to be immune to that, doesn't he? He seems almost to have he seems almost to have not quite clocked how bad it is or how much negativity is still being harboured towards him, doesn't he?
I said to your researcher, Jane, I personally think I'll have a £5 for charity, and I guarantee that he is nominated for probably the first 10 challenges.
Does it work like that? I mean, is it? Can it be the same person 10 times?
Absolutely, yes.
Fantastic.
Many
Chris
times.
Moyles will be breathing a sigh of relief, won't he? I mean, he doesn't go in at the beginning, remember?
Yes, that's right. So I see. So he's coming in later.
Yeah, so he won't. So they've done that on purpose. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know if it would have been boring, but he could.
Yes. Now we understand why they're doing that, because he
otherwise he'd have dominated it.
I think from the moment he comes in, he will be all the guns will be pointed at him.
We shall see. You'll be glued to your sofa, though, eh?
I will be. James, a quick one on your podcast, mate.
Go on.
I'm up to 110 now.
Good grief.
I watched 40 in 10 hours. And I think you put the bar a bit too high after
How did you do 40 in 10 hours? Did you have it on fast forward?
Sorry, 40 in 10 days. Sorry.
Oh, okay. God, blimey.
Sorry, for the day I was on.
The bar is high. Have you listened to the Noel Fitzpatrick one yet?
That's why I'm telling you, push the bar a bit high.
I think that's just a one-off, Kenny, don't you? I'm never going to do stuff like that with anybody else.
I thought, you ain't going to beat Bill Bailey, and then you ain't going to beat Sakia, and then you ain't going to beat John Cleese, and you ain't going to beat, David Dimbleby.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you've got one to beat there now.
I don't think I'll even try. That was one of the sort of most profound experiences of my life, never mind my career. The man's a genius, isn't he? There's something very special about him.
Well, it put tears in my eyes,
Me
James.
too. Could you tell? Could you tell I was crying?
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Look after yourself, Kenny.
Right. Take care. You
Speak
too.
soon,
Bye-bye.
and thanks for that. You just did the advert for me. They're all relatively recent appearances as well on the Full Disclosure podcast. But this week's episode with Noel Fitzpatrick was off the scale. I mean, truly impossible for me to convey to you how powerful it is in so many ways. So do get that wherever you get your podcasts. Joe's in Cambridge. Joe, what would you like to say?
First time calling in as well for me.
Carry on. What do you mean first time calling in? Of all the stuff I do, all the heavy duty politics, and this is the one that's tempted you to break your duck?
Well, first time getting through, let's say.
All right, well, there we go. That'll do. Nice one.
Yeah, so obviously it's all speculating, isn't it, of what his motivation is.
Yeah.
There may be a little bit of an aspect of him looking to serve out his punishment now by having to do all these sort of embarrassing, horrible things on TV.
You're going Catholic.
Everyone will laugh at him for a bit.
You're going Catholic on us. He's serving his penance.
Yeah.
He's doing his 10 Hail Marys as atonement for the sins of COVID.
I mean, in a sense.
Top of the class, Joe.
Yeah.
Straight to the top of the class, mate.
Yeah. Basically, once he's done all these embarrassing things, I think I would probably liken it to when, if it's fair to make the comparison, when Jimmy Carr had the tax scandal thing.
Yes.
And he went on 8 out of 10 Cats the next week and basically let all of his comedians rip him a new one, basically.
He had to own it, didn't he? He had to own it.
Exactly. I think this is maybe the way that he's trying to do the same thing.
I mean, whether it's conscious or subconscious, the idea of doing horrible things in public does speak to quite a primal part of us, doesn't it? It does kind of move the needle of what we think about someone if we think of it like that.
Well, they did used to stick people in the stocks after all, didn't they?
I don't know if we thought better of them afterwards, but we felt that they'd somehow paid for their sins. Do you think it will work? From you personally, because this isn't speculation. If you see him eating a load of anuses or jumping, looking terrified, and would it make you warm to him a bit?
I mean, not massively, but I don't think it's worth getting back into politics.
So that's the other problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. I like that. I love that. That atonement. It's a penance. Brendan Cole has dropped me a note. You know Brendan, the Strictly Come Dancing legend. And actually, this is a really astute analysis, and I suppose it's a world Brendan knows a bit about. He says he figures Matt Hancock's political career in terms of being at the top and being celebrated is all but over. He's sorting out the next 5 years of after dinner speaking and having a TV persona outside of politics. It gives him the limelight and a massive boost for getting bookings. Could be that simple. That's really nicely put as well, Brendan. Thank you. And in fact, after the break, we'll catch up with a pal of mine who has indeed been to the jungle and lived to tell the tale. I think I've only got 2 mates who've done it, so it's not exactly a crowded field, but I won't tell you which one it is until we get there after this. 12:48 is the time. It's one of the stranger political stories of the last couple of years, and don't forget that Nadine Dorries was made Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport not long ago, so the bar is high, but Matt Hancock, former Secretary of State for Health, is going into the jungle as a contestant on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, where he will be appearing alongside the likes of Chris Moyles, Boy George and Mike Tyndall, Charlene White, Scarlett Douglas and Jill Scott. One man who I know rather well, who has done it, been there, got the lunchbox, is Ian Lee, who is on the line now, radio and jungle legend, and formerly, of course, of this parish where you are still much missed. What do you reckon, mate?
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Behave.
Here's the thing: when you're in the jungle, you are being filmed 24/7. There is almost nowhere to hide from the cameras, and you can go in thinking, "Well, I'm going to project this image," but after 2 or 3 days, you cannot sustain that, and you relax, and you forget that you're being filmed, and you're hungry, and someone says something that winds you up, and he will be seen for what he is. You know, you are kind of naked in there to a certain extent in that people see you for what you really are. I was in the same year as Kez. I was also in the same year as Rebecca Vardy.
You were.
And, you know, I make up that she wanted to project this, hey, I'm a fun kind of person. And actually she came across very badly. She came across as quite mean. She argued it was down to the editing. But they can only edit what you say and what you do. The one exception was I was also in there with Stanley Johnson.
Yes.
And everyone in the camp and most people watching it, except for me, fell for that bumbling, posh, you know, that kind of thing. People fell for it. I think the Johnsons are an exception in this kind of environment. I think they are special and unique. But
it's almost as if reality television was invented for them.
Do you know? I think it is.
Yes.
I think to a certain extent it is. But Matt Hancock and the message you had earlier, he's setting himself up for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
People quite often. I did The Jungle. I needed the money. I was getting divorced.
Yes.
I was doing a radio show on a station that no one was listening to, so I wanted to plug it. And my boys were old enough that they hadn't seen me on TV, and I thought I'd show off, right? But it is kind of putting your hand up for a lot of people and saying, this part of my career is over. Let's see what comes next. And I think that contributor was right, that he is setting, his political career is over, and he's setting
That was Brendan.
Now.
That was Brendan Cole off Strictly. Yeah, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, of course he does. And I think Hancock is setting himself up for the next stage of his career. But he will be surprised. People still hate him. You know, the Tories seem to think that we have forgotten COVID and we've forgotten the deaths and the old people's homes and all of that. And we haven't. And people are still furious about that. But also, very quickly, this is what makes this show so brilliant, in that you went through that list of people, and it's always an absolutely bonkers mix of people that they get, which is why it's so fascinating and so brilliant to watch.
How quickly would you expect the mask to slip then, Ian?
Oh, well, there was a famous clip of Hancock on LBC where he was taking a call and he didn't like the way the call went, and he did a very aggressive kind of cutting his throat, quit the call kind of thing.
That was at Keith. That was at Keith. That was directed at Keith.
Was it directed at Keith?
That was directed at Keith, bless him.
That was half an hour in a studio. You know, if he can't last half an hour on a phone-in show without letting the mask slip, I give him, by the time if he jumps out of the helicopter, by the time he touches the ground, we'll all know what an absolute plum he is.
You're not holding out much hope then.
No, you know, and it is this weird thing, you know, of it's a funny, light entertainment show, and it's a wonderful show. I don't really watch it, but, you know, it is the biggest show in the UK, and it was an honour to be on it. But this man is also, you know, could be argued by some, has blood on his hands, you know, behaved appallingly, broke COVID rules when I wasn't allowed to go and visit my mum. So it's a weird juxtaposition, and it's
a weird career move, although, probably got a slightly clearer idea of what his motivation might be. Did you feel that you were done? Because Rebecca Vardy complained about the edit. You're essentially saying that what came across was actually fairly accurate for everybody. That would include yourself.
Yeah, I went in there. They pay you a lot of money.
Sure.
And I went in there knowing this was an entertainment show. And I went in, I found where all the cameras were. I knew exactly what was going on. They were all talking. A lot of them were talking about we're on a journey.
Right.
No, we're not on a journey. We're on a big ITV, you know, silly show. Let's do some fun things. That's why I stole some strawberries. You know, that's why. And I stole strawberries thinking, you know, will our mutual friend Scott find it funny? Not realising 5 years later.
Can't blame Scott.
But 5 years later, I still get people going, oh, do you want some strawberries? And I love that. I made a tiny bit of iconic TV. It's an amazing show. It's an amazing signing that they've got him, and I expect him to be completely destroyed by the public. I suspect he'll get voted out quickly.
I mean, it's one or the other. You have to keep him in if you want him to carry on doing the tasks, don't you?
That's the thing. That's where these programmes fall down slightly. I suspect he'll get kicked out quite quickly.
I shall watch with interest. What about a final question? I promise, and thanks for coming on. The question of redemption. I mean, I can't fault anything that you said, but there's an outside chance that he'll have some sort of collapse on the programme and sort of beg for forgiveness. I mean, you're very exposed, as you say, and when people are hungry and tired and you know, scared, possibly the real Matt Hancock will emerge. And he won't be hateful. He won't be hateful.
Listen, if he came on and he begged for forgiveness, wow, that would be amazing. And that would certainly be something you then have a conversation about. Do we forgive him? Is it genuine? But you and I both know that isn't going to happen. He'll be one of those MPs, one of those people who has been through so much media training. And you know when you interview someone who's been through media training, thanks so much for inviting me on for this opportunity. You know, go on.
Well, but that'll crack at some point, surely.
Totally. Yeah. The media training will not last in the first two nights, you know, and we will see Matt Hancock for what he is, you know, make of that what you will.
Happy days. A lot of love for you in my inbox, Ian.
Oh, bless you. It's so lovely to be back on LBC again.
It had to happen. It was only a matter of time. Here's my favourite. Here's my favourite tweet. It says, "At Mr. James OB is currently the second best radio presenter on his own show."
Come on now. All right, listen, let me let you get on with it. It's lovely to talk to you, mate. Thanks a lot. Take care.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Ian Lee there, radio and, of course, jungle legend, and a pretty neat analysis, really, of A, what Matt Hancock is likely to be thinking, and B, what is likely to happen to Matt Hancock when he gets on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And he's right. I don't know if you've seen that clip. It was, I mean, how long have we worked together now? A couple of years? So I did used to lose my temper in the studio, but in my pre-therapy days, in the pre-how not to be wrong days. But I don't generally anymore, maybe once in 2 years, if that. He did it on his first show. He did it in his first hour. He was like, oh, poor old Keith's not on today. Mikey's standing in for Keith today. I think Keith is having a lie down after learning that Matt Hancock's it's got an early nod on it. But there it is. 12:56 is the time. Jeff's in Merthyr Tydfil. Jeff, what would you like to say?
Well, can I just say, James, that I met him on LBC.
On this show, indeed.
When you were away.
I was.
He came on for what it was 2 hours.
Did he win you over? Did he win your heart and mind?
He would, what we call him, Merthyr, he's my buddy. It's not a sandwich. It's a very good friend.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I feel that I'm more qualified to look into this man's soul. He's a friend of mine. We talked about batteries and solar panels.
You've been seeing other presenters while I was on holiday, Jeff.
Yep.
Faithless cur.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And we talked about solar panels, and he was so taken with me. He mentioned me in the show. What about Jeff in Merthyr? And this went on. We were.
I'm going to have to hurry you. How do you think he's going to get on in the jungle, Jeff, in Merthyr?
Well, just to say, my friends have just beginning to speak to me again, because this is Merthyr Tydfil and we're not supposed to talk to Conservatives. But yes, what I could go into those deep psychological
No, don't do that.
reasons.
So like good or bad, how do you think he's going to get on?
Oh, he'd get on like a house on fire.
You really think so?
He's doing it for the money, James.
But he's not. I mean, the money will help, but he's doing it as a kind of a career roulette wheel. He's doing it as a crikey, what's gonna I can't just be a backbench MP for the rest of my career. I'm cheeky Matty Hancock. I'm Matty Hancock. I can't just be a backbench MP for I need something. So that's why he's doing it. I think that at least is what I would say. And Maxine's in Leeds, and I haven't really got time to talk to you, but just to take the light-hearted tone out of the conversation, Maxine, if you would, very briefly, because you're proper cross.
I'm furious about it, James. I think ITV should be ashamed of themselves, and I think Matt should be ashamed of himself. And I don't really care what his motivations are for doing it. The bottom line of it is he is a serving MP. I know that he has lost the whip, but obviously he is, paid for by the taxpayer, and I want to know how much he is getting paid by I'm a Celebrity Get Me Out.
You will know. It will appear in his declaration of interest at some point. But I think you're a nurse, aren't you?
I am, yes. And I remember at the beginning of the pandemic the struggles that we had for a long time regarding the PPE. We couldn't access PPE that we needed.
And now he's a turn on a game show.
Yeah, and now he's a turn on a game show, and everyone's laughing about it, and he just gets away with it, whereas, the nurses who actually help people through the pandemic.
Maxine, you make a very good point. I'm sorry I didn't have longer to talk to you, but I'm glad that we found time for you at the end. Some people are even making jokes about white bikinis. Here's Sheila Fogarty.
It was me. I don't think he's going to be able to pull it off, do you?
What, the bikini?
A white
I hope
not. A white mankini.
No,
let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there. No, let's not go there.